Hello everybody. My friend Malk, he didn't send this picture, but my friend Malk sent me some pictures today. But we've all seen clouds like that, haven't we? Or seen them on the internet with this sort of rainbow effect. Malk, who lives up in Scotland, was out the other day filming. That's not his picture, but obviously there's a picture he sent me, so they're similar sort of things. And there he is, so we'll just stop it on there. He was out the other day when he saw this cloud here and it looked different. So we'll put the video on a little bit. Malk is pretty good. He's got a P900 and he sees what he sees. There you go, look. When he blew it up and looked into it, it is this really weird thing in the sky with very weird cloud patterns, which, well, I don't know. Anyway, let's carry on. As we go on, I'll say a little bit about what I think it could be. But there you go. So Mount took this picture. Look at it. I mean, look at the lines that are here. All he did was change the saturation on the camera because he wanted to see if he could see what this thing was, and then he noticed the lines. I mean, in a way, does that look a bit like a Faraday cage? And that, I mean, look at the clouds as he's changed the saturation on it. Look at those clouds. That's HAARP, isn't it? Do you think? That's what I thought. Anyway, let's put the video on. And then he took the picture, then he blew it up a little bit and changed the saturation, and he saw these lines in the pictures. Looks very suspicious, all that cloud, doesn't it, with the black lines in it. Yeah. Crazy. And there's another one. He blew it up again. And or was that me that did it? Oh, I can't remember. But anyway, no, he did that for me, I think. Oh, I can't remember now because I've blown some up to show Alan. But there you go with the black lines. I think that's probably HAARP, to be honest. That's them harping the skies with their Faraday cage looking things to keep the clouds, like that's where it's going to happen. Zoom, there it happens. I don't know. What's your thoughts to the black lines? Yes, Malk always sends me interesting photographs. So there it is with the black lines, with those clouds. And there was something else as well. The only thing I think that thing looks like is that. Maybe it's that. I mean, that's supposed to be in space, but you can see it in the blue sky. When you look at the shape of the other thing, it looks like that. But obviously the colour isn't, but the shape is. It looks a bit like the Black Knight to me, but there's those black lines. What's your thoughts to that? All those black lines. HAARP? But that thing is there, whatever it is. Well, it looks a bit like the Black Knight to me. But what's your thoughts with that thing there with those black lines on the top in the clouds? everybody. Here today, I have a friend with me today. I have Galactic Gal.
Hello, one and all. Merry Christmas to everyone, and just a very quick summary of my last few days. Me and one of my friends, we went to Butlins in Minehead over Christmas, which we come back from yesterday. We decided to have a couple of days in Newbury, and we're staying in a hotel down there. And because I wanted to see Karen, just after between Christmas and New Year, and we had a jolly.
Not just that. Last time I saw you was Mickey's funeral.
Yeah, it was very sad because the last time was when poor Mickey was being buried, and I went to the funeral down in South London in Carshalton. So it was very sad. So it's not nice being.
You were chatting the women up.
I was chatting to women up a little bit like I always do. Yeah, I do, Karen, don't I? I actually did have a fixation for one of them. I thought she was very nice. But
she had a wedding ring on.
She did have a wedding ring. Yeah, I know.
I only saw that in the picture.
I can still talk to them though, can't I?
Yeah.
No, anyway, it was a very, very sad day, and I know what it's like to be alone at Christmas time. I've lost so many members of my family, and that's why I actually come round. I stayed round Karen's like I used to do for the last number of years. I left my mate at a hotel, so
yeah, Gary's come to stay the night,
and he's been through some.
And also, you talked to Mickey, but you only actually met. We did a hangout together, and you came to because obviously I think when you get a boyfriend, everybody stay away a little bit, don't you? Friends, they do a little bit. But then you came to stay about a month before he died.
I stayed one night. I spoke to him on the phone several times, but face to face. One time, and it was only about couple of weeks after that he passed on, wasn't it?
He bought all these Guinnesses, which
and
are still outside the door.
Can I take them or no? Keep them for George.
Well, take some. Take most of them.
No,
leave a couple for when you next come.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll leave them till next time because we've still got some over from Butlins. So I'll wait. Maybe I'll take a couple.
Take a couple. Yeah. And then just leave a few here for when you next come. Because you will, even if it's 6 months, you'll be back again.
But we went for a nice meal last night, didn't we?
We did. Cool. We had the biggest puddings ever.
We went to the Toby Carvery in Newbury, and it's great because you can go and I'm vegan, you can go up and help yourself to as much vegetables as you want.
And you had vegan ice cream.
And I had vegan ice cream. It wasn't on the menu, but I asked the guy, and voila, it magically appeared a Mandela affected some vegan ice cream into my reality, and it was absolutely fantastic. And yours was like a massive big Knickerbocker Glory thing, wasn't it?
It was profiteroles with honeycomb and then salted caramel and ice cream. But when we lived, I think your friend, what's your friend called?
Robert,
he had the heaviest one.
Oh yeah, they was all gigantic.
Gigantic. When you pick them up, you think all that's going in your stomach.
It was really, really, really a lovely meal actually. It was quite cheap.
That woman said you haven't seen the profiterole one.
That's right. Yeah, but it was very nice, So
and it wasn't too expensive considering you got drinks, didn't you? Alcoholic drinks.
I only got one Guinness, but no, I've drunk so much Guinness over Christmas. I thought I'd give my liver a rest last night and just had cups of tea. And we watched
me instead.
And we watched quite a horrific movie, didn't we?
Oh yeah, we watched a movie last night, and I was holding your hand. I was going, Gary.
It wasn't a horror movie actually. It was what was it called? It was called Prisoner, wasn't it?
Who was in it? That guy.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, but it was just the thought of everything. They thought someone had done something. Their little girls went missing, so they thought, it's him, and then they did these horrible things to him.
Basically, what I got out of this film was. Mistaken identity has happened so much. It's happened numerous times where people have shared the same name as someone and they're branded as sort of like a thief, a paedophile. You never, could be anything, and they end up getting beaten up or even killed, and it's not them. And this is what happened to this poor guy, wasn't it?
They even put hot after they'd beaten him up, so his face was completely swollen.
And they were putting hot water over him. Now this guy had learning difficulties as it was, so for him, he went for a most tremendous ordeal. And that's what I got out of that movie, Karen, was the fact that this happens so much, mistaken identity. Where people listen in other veins of life it happens. I know a bloke that sort of got picked out an identity parade because he looked identical. He actually got picked out by several people that come to because these are the days before DNA. Remember, back about 45 years ago or something, and it was going all the way to court, but then. the guy that did do the original robbery got caught again, and the police phoned him up and said, "Oh, we want you to come down to the police station again." So he said, because he was out on bail, went down to the police station. He said, "You're the luckiest bloke on God's green earth." He said, "Why's that?" He said, "See the picture of this bloke?" He said, "That's me." He said, "No, it isn't you." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "This was the guy that done the original robbery. Look at the likeness between you and him. You could be twin brothers." So it just goes to show that we have got doppelgangers. Now, I wonder how many people over the years like have been sentenced on sort of like being picked out on identity parades. You know, it does,
and also don't forget as well in that maritime law thing that if you ask the judge which court he was sitting in, it's not the court you're in. So actually, most of the prisoners can ask for their trials to be redone again because it's the wrong judge.
Wrong court, exactly.
The wrong court.
Exactly.
So that means that trial is bogus.
Yeah.
But anyway, just very quickly because we've got this.
Oh right, yeah. The thing is, I'll tell you what happened. Right, I do go off on a tangent. As people that know me in the past, like all the people I've done podcasts with, I do tend to go off a bit. Some have passed on, unfortunately, like my friend Nigel in China. But anyway, when we was coming back from Butlins, it was horrendous weather yesterday. It was as it was from all over the UK. That was on the 27th, and as we were coming down the M4, to going through Swindon on the way to Newbury to go to our hotel, I always sort of like try and analyse any situation I'm in, like to sort of like give not stories, but real life events in real time, like to sort of like do podcasts with Karen. Well, you know, they say God works in mysterious ways. I'm sure he did there. I was looking out the left window, even though it was bucketing down with rain. I caught, which I first of all thought was this big black boulder in a sort of like in a field. But as we got closer, I realised it was moving. Well, I was witness to one of these black cats that are sort of like meant to be roaming around the countryside, Wiltshire, Bodmin Moor. We had one in Brockman's Park where I used to live. I said to my friend Robert, I said, "Rob," I said, he was driving, obviously, like, and I'll tell you what, it was the most horrendous weather you've ever seen in your life. The rain was so bad you couldn't see, even with the windscreen wipers on the maximum sort of like, you know, range of motion, the speed, you couldn't really see out the window. But I said, "I just seen one of them black cats." We couldn't pull over because obviously like we'd have gone on a hard shoulder. We couldn't even see how we was going. But anyway, I know for a fact I see one of these gigantic black cats. And then when I was around Karen's just a little while ago, we looked it up, and there's one in Swindon. It was when we was going through past Swindon on the M4, and apparently in the Swindon Gazette or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's full of sort of like the black cat that has been seen. Now, I know.
That's it for 30 years.
I know. I see one of these giant cats. And when people turn around and say, the strangest thing with this, it's not like other things we investigate, like flat earth, Mandela effect, 9/11, anything else. This is not even a conspiracy. I mean, there was an act in 1976 where people had big cats. You ain't going to believe this, but people in council houses used to have animals like pumas, even lions, believe it or not. You know, panthers and all sorts. And what happened was the curriculum for sort of like storing these sort of like animals was so intricate that only the wealthiest of people, like, you know, people in mansions could afford it, because it would cost more than what your house is worth to sort of like to make it sort of like secure. So what people done, they let all these animals off into the wild, and they've bred apparently like with other feral cats, and there's sort of like a hybrid cat out there now, or hybrids. Now we looked it up. It can be can be a black panther, it can be a jaguar, which is very unlikely because only 6 in every like 100 jaguars is black, or it can actually be a leopard. They do have black leopards as well, which are even more rare. But for me, I mean, it seemed to me like a panther, because I've been to a zoo enough times. They're very graceful animals, and I see one in the summer actually. I go to zoos a lot, you know. I really enjoy it down there, you know, seeing and I prefer them in the wild, but I do. There's one up near me in Cambridgeshire. I jump on the train and go up there. But I know for a fact I see one of these one of these big cats, because it couldn't have been a domestic cat. A domestic cat.
No, it's okay, because what it was is, you said you saw it, so I said, why don't we just look up and see if it says anything?
Straight away it come up.
Straight away it came up, Swindon black
Exactly.
cats.
Well, do you know something? You know, this isn't much of sort of like the other things we investigate, whereby, you know, you can put truth in plain sight to people and they still don't get it, either because, you know, it's not part of the reality, or they don't get the science. I can understand that. This is something everyone can understand, because it's quite simple.
Anybody, has it?
No, well, basically what they do, Karen, they live off of sort of like any wildlife where they are in the farm where they're at. That's why a lot of sheep get killed. A lot of sheep, farmers are losing. I see a program once, and there's a farmer who loses so many sheep. I think he's actually sort of like, you know, thinking of giving up sort of like sheep grazing, because they basically just get parts of the animal. They don't sort of like eat the whole carcass, so they basically get the goodies. It's like if you having a bit of steak or something, like, you know, you're leaving the fat off, they probably eat the kidneys and heart
There's never,
and things
I mean,
like
to be
that.
honest, look, his ears look a bit funny in there. Look, see
Now,
how his ears
yeah.
not the... So that face is superimposed in. We thought that face was when we looked at it, to be honest. But supposedly there is a Black Panther in Swindon.
And the thing is, like, you know, this also happened to me before, like when I lived in Hertfordshire. Well, I still live in Hertfordshire, but another part of Hertfordshire, like Potter's Bar. There's some woods over there, and I was with an ex-girlfriend. I'm always talking about all his ex-girlfriends, Karen.
Yeah,
I've got so
haven't
many.
you?
I've got loads back in my past, but that's another story. And we were cycling through the woods, and literally, lucky enough, Jill never see it, but I see in the distance. My eyesight's not fantastic, but one crossed the road, and I knew it wasn't a domestic cat. So I said, I don't want to stay in these woods anymore, Jill. And she said, why's that? And I said, I'll just see one of them giant cats. She said, don't be silly, like, it's probably like a domestic cat. I said, what, a domestic cat? And when I went up, I analysed that sort of like the height of this thing must have been about sort of like, you know, I would say 2.5 feet, something like that, off of the ground, roughly, because I see like a branch that would have been near enough level with the sort of like the level of the back, you know, not including the head and the neck. And then when I went and reported it to the police station, I said, I'm going to go and report this, actually. I said, because I couldn't forgive myself if a little kiddie comes through here, like on a, I don't think in those days you had these electric scooters, but if they go through on a bike or something. And when I went to the police station, there was a really lovely, like, desk sergeant there. When I told her, I said, look, I haven't been drinking today. I said, I'm going to tell you something now. It's going to blow your socks off. And she said, what's that? And I said, we actually had the map up on the wall, and I pointed out the wood. I think it might have been Gobian's wood or something like that. I said, we was in this wood, and we see one of those big cats. Now you think I'm mad, don't you? And she started laughing. She said, I said, well, it isn't funny, love. And she said, no. She said you're one of very, very many people that have come in here and reported this. It isn't a secret even. And I said to her, I said, I'll tell you why I reported it. I said, because if little kids was going through that park, they might get sort of like attacked. And she turned around and said they've investigated it, and they said there's hardly been any attacks on adults, humans or anything, because they've got such a wide range of sort of like food to live on. You leave them alone. It's like anything. If you corner an animal, you know, they can sort of like attack you. And you know, you generally speaking, there's been a few sort of like attacks on humans, but very, very rare. I should imagine about 40, 50 years, Karen, there's been, you can count on one hand.
It's strange to think it's Safari UK, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean,
they're out there living in the wild.
I mean, what you've got to remember is the Dangerous Animals Act in 1976. We did touch on this on another podcast a couple of years ago. Was it sounds ridiculous in this day and age, because what you know, I'm in almost my mid-60s now, and I'm old enough to remember. And a lot of your subscribers are going to be too young to know this, but I was 16 in 1976. I'm giving my age away now, 16 or 17, and I remember when this come out, and you had people. It was all over the Sun. You can all Google this, folks. It was in the Sun where people had like lions in their back garden in a blinking like a wire mesh sort of like, you know, sort of like little enclosure or something, and it was ridiculous. These were escaping. I mean, you know, now with these XL bully dogs, from next month, or I think February, they're being banned, because these XL bully dogs, they're bred for fighting, And basically, so many people have been bitten by them. There's a couple of them in Welling Garden City, actually. I was stroking one. There's one, you know, something. I mean, this one was muzzled up that I see. She actually said it's an American bulldog, but it looks the same to me as an XL bully. Well, you know, I'm going off on a tangent a little bit. But the thing is, my point is, this isn't so much like a conspiracy. It's just people don't want you to know it because, you know, people are going to stop sort of like going into woods and into open spaces. You know, all these animals are being killed, like, you know, the sheeps and sheep. The sheep is being killed and other animals as well. Now, you know, what is doing this? You know, I would say almost categorically there is a population of big wild cats living in the wilds, and when people turn around and say, well, how comes we never find a carcass? Well, I remember seeing a program once where they was talking to a US Ranger about, like, it was a program actually about Bigfoot, because people were saying, like, how comes, or the Sasquatch, how comes we never find any carcasses? And he turned around and said, we never even find black bear or brown bear carcasses because there's nothing left. The scavengers have it all. There's literally within a space of like about a week or two, there's nothing left. It's all gone completely. It's demolished. So, you know, people might think, well, you would find the odd sort of like carcass and one thing and another, but not necessarily. You know, we've got quite a lot of open land, Karen, like, you know, sort of like empty wilderness.
I'm quite surprised that they are not attacking us, but then
I think they've got such a good food source that they don't have to. They don't have to attack us, because the thing is with most animals, like, you know, I mean, there's some horrible stories, like, I mean, whether it's true or not, but that despot over in North Korea, like Kim Jong Un or whatever his name is, apparently one of his generals or something was sleeping like on one of his meetings or something, snoring away, and apparently he got fed to like a load of wild dogs that hadn't eaten for sort of like about a month, deliberately starved for this very reason. So yeah, if animals are starving and hungry, they will eat anything. I mean, it's the same as white sharks.
It's quite surprising. If they are really in the wild, that they haven't attacked the humans at all. But there doesn't seem to be stories.
I don't think they have to. I think in their natural habitat where they live over here, they're literally like, there's abundance.
It's hard to believe that there's big wild cats living in the countryside.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Well, the thing is, Karen's got three cats here now, because she's got like Mickey's three cats, and they're all black, which is a bit of a coincidence really, because the last time I was here, obviously Mickey, God rest his soul, was still on this mortal plane, and they weren't here. But now we've actually lost one, haven't we?
Yeah, the boy cat again. We lost him the other day. He was here last night, unless someone's let him out this morning. But
I mean,
he's got to be in the house somewhere. But we can't find him at the moment.
They're very nice, and Flossie the dog, like, don't really mind them. She's sort of like,
no, she likes them. She's quite intrigued. Except Minnie hits her.
I mean, sometimes like they have to, when you have different animals, like, you have to grow up together.
I'm tired because all I've done is look after cats that have got problems for the last few weeks.
But the thing is, like, you know, if they grow up together, I mean, another.
Well, Minnie doesn't like Cam. They grew up together, but she doesn't like him. So.
Yeah, but it's more when it's more dissimilar than that, where you've got sort of like a dog that's sort of like been here for a long time, and then three cats come on her territory, it can cause trouble. But no, I mean, they're not too bad, apart from like, I think we've got to go and get one of them cat things today.
Yeah, I want to get a clawer, because all they're doing is clawing my sofa.
They're clawing the sofas and what, they've got nothing to claw on.
I'm trying to show you this story, and all it's got is loads of adverts in it.
That's all you get these days.
It's a bit annoying, really.
But listen, I'm not trying to worry anyone out there about sort of like, you know, don't go out in woods anymore and one thing another, because listen, all I can think is that they're in their natural habitat over here. There's such an abundance of food, and obviously they have to have
it's obviously not too cold for them, is it?
They have to have litters of sort of like, you know, little cats, little kittens and one another. And the thing is, they've got acclimatised to the climate over here. Over successive sort of like generations, Karen, what's happened is the early ones probably did find it very hard, because they were probably sort of like, when they were living in gardens and whatever, they, you know, in people's backyard. I mean, you can Google all this, folks. If you go back to pre-1976, your next door neighbour might have had a lion in his back garden in a stupid little chicken wire enclosure. Now this sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But there was a spate of these wild cats escaping. Of course, the police had to come along, the marksmen, and shoot them because they mauled a few people. But listen, as far as I know, there's no sort of like tigers or sort of like lions on the loose, but black panthers or quite possibly jaguars, but more likely panthers.
People have had them as pets and then they can't cope with them and then they let them out.
In 1976, they had no choice because they couldn't afford to sort of like make the enclosure. Oh yeah, they were given the option. They were told. I've looked into this.
You saw it yesterday.
They were told. You're quite. Yeah, if you want to keep your sort of like lion or your puma, if you ever go round these sort of like zoos and you see what they have to do to sort of like make an enclosure secure for sort of like the health and safety you got these days, it would cost the average sort of like person probably more than what their house is worth. They'd have to sort of like make an enclosure that was so higher than the house anyway, electrify it and all the rest of it. But pre-76, you didn't have to do that. People were known to walk like these animals down the street on leads.
Yeah.
Now, listen, a lot of people that are sort of like just about 40 and 30 say, hey, you're having a laugh, gal. I'm telling you, you look it up. And these animals were let out in the loose because they couldn't afford, or the zoos didn't want them. Maybe like, I've got an idea, Karen, maybe, I'm not going to say fear because I know that hurt, I hate that word. I've got an idea that all the zoos were full up and they couldn't take any more. And all the ones that were left, people just let them out they didn't want to kill them, so they let them out into the wild.
It's a bit weird that so many out, but...
Well, they're breeding, aren't they? That's what's happening.
We've been going for 20 minutes about the panther. Is that
right? Okay.
Enough? Is that long enough?
I think so.
We've got a few other things to talk about.
We have. I'm sure we've got one or two things.
Yeah. But Gary saw the Black Panther, and it exists because it's in the papers.
Yeah, and the thing is, this isn't one of this isn't like 50-50. Like this is reality, folks. I mean, they do actually exist. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. What the population figures are, we've no idea, but there's a thriving population of big black cats out there, and like I said, you'll probably never. If you ever see one, I've seen two now in my life. I've seen one, the Brookman's Park Beast. It was called the Brookman's Park Beast, and I've seen the Swindon Beast, the Swindon Panther. And the fact that it was actually in. Listen, I couldn't have been the only person to see that, although the weather conditions were horrendous. But yes, it definitely wasn't a domestic cat.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, anyway, we'll move on to the next bit, yeah?
Yeah.
Gary's got another that he thinks might be a Mandela effect.
Yeah, I noticed this a couple of months ago. Now, at the time it was just me, but now other people are spotting it. This spelling Mandela effect concerns the word neighbours. Now, I sort of like, when I sort of like write neighbours down, I used to write it NEIBORS. Now it's got a GH in the middle. Now I actually turned around to sort of like Kat, and I told her this one like a few weeks ago, and I said I think I've spotted a Mandela effect, and she said, oh no, she said I remember like the series Neighbours, it's got a GH in it. But of course, what you got to remember with the Mandela effect, everyone takes an update anyway. Everybody, you take an update and you think it's always been that way. It's a very strange enigma. Now, I'm on a sort of like a Telegram group from where I live in Welling Garden City, and one of the geezers there is quite a big noise, like John Eastwood.
It's got Google search. Should we just see if it does it?
You can.
See what it does.
But you can like he put it down as neighbours.
No.
He put it down as neighbours without the GH. Now, it's easy for everyone to turn around and say, oh, Gal, it's always been that way, I remember, but this is how the Mandela effect works. I remember when I was.
That's why they put it as GH.
I remember when I was at school, like I know for a fact like Dilemma like had a silent N in it, but now it was spell checked to sort of like.
That doesn't look right,
double
does
M.
it? Neighbours like that.
No,
to be honest.
no. And the more you look at it, the more you look at neighbours like that with a GH, it doesn't look right. And this is what happens with the Mandela effect, because and there's lots of residue as well. I mean, I haven't actually seen any residue with the spelling of neighbours that way, but it don't look right. I'll tell you what I do, folks. When you sort of like when you hear this podcast, write neighbours down as it's sort of like spelt now, and then write neighbours down without the GH. There's even another way to spell it, which is like ORS, which I don't think looks right. But for me, I don't remember having like the GH in it.
I don't know.
Karen.
I think that the GH has been there for quite a while, but
has it though? Because this is what happens, you see.
I don't know. In the 60s, it might have been like that.
I mean, the thing is, they're not going to sort of like suddenly, because I'll tell you what I'm going to try and do, because sometimes you have residue. I mean, let's face it, in most books that you're going to get it sort of like spelt the way it is now. Now, the thing is with the Mandela effect, it changed back. It will change things back retroactively back to the origin point. So the thing is, has it always been that way, or has it not? This is the $1 million question. This is what, and you know, it's easy, we can all turn around and say, oh no, it has always been that way. But this is how this works, because you get you get an update and you just think of it that it's always been that way. But then others like me and others, but I think I was the first one that picked up on neighbours. There's other people now, they've done a podcast, and it like a lot of other words, like cemetery. For me, cemetery was at the end TARY. Now it's ERY, and cemetery. It's got 3 E's in it.
And you reckon it was ARY?
I think it was ARY. I don't think. I know it was. And
it doesn't want to find it like that.
I was one of the first people to spot this, because where I moved 4.5 years ago. Yeah, 4.5 years ago, I looked at sort of like a sign and it said cemetery, and I looked at it and I thought,
oh, there you go.
That doesn't look right.
Cemetery or cemetery? How do you spell it?
Yeah, see? Now, this is how they do, because what you got to remember, if the Mandela effect is a supernatural event, the powers that be,
spelt right.
The powers that be have to have an explanation for it. Obviously, they have to. And because it's no good, they can't just. See, the thing is with the Mandela effect, it's not something, Karen.
No,
they can just brush under the carpet, because people are seeing it in real time. It's not like, you know, with flat Earth, they'll come out with all these different sort of like explanations why we live on a globe and one thing or another. They'll come out with all this rubbish. With the Mandela effect, it's like it's a very sort of like a bit of an enigma, actually, where sometimes you just see it, you can wake up and then you think, hang on a minute, is that right? It's almost like you sort of like go to bed and you wake up in a different reality. But what do you remember?
There you go. He says this is on the computer. It says,
yeah.
Do you spell the word cemetery or cemetery? Although all authorities reference spell the word with 3 E's, I see many examples of the word being called cemetery.
Yes.
Online on signs. In fact, I see a reference to the A spelling of the word that I simply think of is it as a variant spelling.
Well, do you know something? This is it. I haven't actually seen any residue, but other people have. People have found residue of sort of like the old spelling with the ARY. Now, it's either spelt one way or the other. It can't be spelled as as both.
What's the meaning of the word cemetery then? Let's have a look. What does it mean then? Here.
It sounds a bit morbid, folks, but it's a valid point. A lot of A's seems to have changed to E and vice versa, but mainly the other way round. It seems like cemetery the same. I want you folks. I'll tell you what to do with cemetery. Write it down in full caps.
What is the meaning of the word?
In uppercase, and have a look at it. And also write cemetery down with ARY. And
wants to bring cemetery
yeah. And it just doesn't.
It's really strange because there is a reference to it as ARY.
That's right.
You can't find much about it.
And for all the doubting Thomases out there that say like, oh no, this can't possibly be, there's actually a book out where dilemma is actually spelt with sort of like an N in it. Because now if you sort of like put in dilemma, it's got two M's.
They spelt it ARY and they've spelt it ARY.
There you go.
Misspelling of cemetery.
Cemetery, because they have to have an explanation for it.
So do you think that we spelt it wrong and that's how we did it?
No, I think it's been reality change, because to me that cemetery there looks correct, whereas like the ERY doesn't look correct. Especially you notice it more when it's in uppercase. You put it in uppercase and do the same thing with neighbours. Put it in uppercase. There's loads of words. There is residue with regards to dilemma as well. There are some books where it's spelt with an N.
Cemetery.
Yeah.
Supposed music shop. See, that's a music shops. Also known as Sweden local fire records. So that's like a record company.
I mean, the strangest thing is, you know, if you're at school, you get corrected on the spelling of things, and you know, to me,
look at that. They spelled it. The supervisor spelled it wrong there.
They put the ARY. So my point is
they've also spelt it wrong on YouTube. They've put ARY.
There's either two ways of spelling it.
Because when you actually think the word cemetery, it sounds like ARY, not ERY,
Of course it does.
not URI.
But it also looks right. It also looks right. The ARY.
These people have spelt it wrong. Look, they've all spelt it wrong.
Yeah.
All
So
those people have.
see, they can't have it both ways.
So why are people spelling it that way?
This is the thing. With a lot of other things we investigate, they come out with all these like excuses why it's this way.
They're all wrong then. Look, all those are wrong.
Yeah. Well, with the Mandela effect, it's the written word that's changing. So the thing is, they have to come up, because anyone that can read, Karen, anyone that can read is going to spot it. So they have to come out with all these like flimsy excuses. And when you get residue,
they've all spelled it wrong. Look, last FM.
Yeah.
These have. There's another one. Cemetery glitz. I mean, maybe they've done that.
And do you know something? This is fantastic residue you got here, because I can't find it spelt the old way.
East Cemetery. They've spelt it with an A.
Yeah, I cannot find any residue, but there's lots of. Karen's on a computer now, and we have found oodles of residue where it's spelt ARY. So when people turn around and say like, and they can see this, can't they?
Look,
when
Wilmington Cemetery, there's another wrong spelling.
Now, can they see this like when we do the podcast?
Yeah,
They can.
I'm recording it.
Now the thing is, this is being recorded, folks, so you can actually see it in real time, right? Where cemetery is spelt. We've actually found some real-time cemetery spelt the old way. Now, you know the most strangest thing is that could even change. This is how the Mandela effect works, right?
There's one.
Yeah, it's still going to say RRY.
Is this because people don't know how to spell it?
No, I don't know.
Or it just feels right writing CEMATERY.
It seems like a supernatural event where reality is changing, because we've actually found in real time, as this moment in time exists, cemetery spelt the old way. But now, if you turn around and say
the Historical Association is spelt cemetery like that.
Well, so my point is, if anyone turns around and says...
There's another one, look, .org, cemetery.
If anyone turns around and says, like, the Mandela effect is just like misremembering or a figment of someone's imagination, well, think again, folks, because we've found oodles now of cemetery spelled ARY. Now, this is where it becomes very strange. By the time you see this podcast, that might even change to ERY. I very much doubt it will, but we've got actually
real time. They're all spelt wrong. Look.
Yeah, so we've got cemetery here, all spelt wrong. Nunhead Cemetery. That's in South London. That is, and they've spelt it with an ARY. So that is a cemetery like what you go to, where sort of like you go and see sort of like family or whatever. So for people to turn around and say it's just misremembering, we've actually found residue in real time. This is what generally happens, and I'm so looking forward to when this podcast comes out tomorrow, because it'd be amazing if we've seen this. If when you do it, the spelling changes. Listen, this would be a supernatural event if it changes to ERY, because why is it ARY when cemetery? Because it says, when we looked it up on the Black's Dictionary to begin with, or one thing or another.
There you go, look.
Yeah.
Amble Town Council, West Cemetery with ARY. These are not very old though, look. Amble West Cemetery News. They spelt it ARY.
So we have found residue here.
council.
We've found residue here in real time where it's been spelt the old way, and they turn around and say it's never ever been spelt
Yeah, look.
ARY.
Churchyard and Co.
Yeah. So I'm really ecstatic about this, folks, because
Trivago's a holiday company.
So if any of you sort of like have investigated the Mandela effect like I have for several years, what we're seeing now in real time is like
There's
actual residue.
Look at that. The Victoria and Albert Museum is spelt, and it's got Cemertary ARY.
Yeah. So
Brittany Ferries. Oh no, they spelt that right.
they will tell you that it's never ever been spelt with an ARY, but we've found and you're going to see it yourself when
more
in this
people
podcast.
are putting it with ARY than ERY.
Yeah.
There's another one. Look, pennypost.org Cemetery.
So what I want you to do, folks, is also turn around to your sort of like loved ones that probably are not awake as us, might be asleep or semi-awake, and then say to them, how do you spell cemetery? And see what they write down, and then say to them, well, what way, and then write both ways down and say, well, what way is it actually spelt now? And see what they say, and say, well, no, it's spelt both ways.
Express, that might be in, this is in Suffolk.
Yeah.
Cemetery.
So it looks like it's spelt both ways, but they turn around and say it's not. It's always been spelt just ERY. We've found sort of like residue here, folks.
But does that mean that everybody's just spelling it wrong?
We don't know. This is the thing. We don't actually know what's happening, Karen. But we do know one thing, that what we're seeing here is residue in real time, because there's loads of cemetery ARY.
Yeah, look, there's loads of them.
There's loads of them.
Well, I didn't find this before because I think we looked it up before. To be honest, remember, I think we did.
We did, but we've never found this before.
Look,
every single one.
Invest in Surrey.
Yeah, every single one is ARY. So
City of Saxville's.
They can't have it both ways, folks. The powers that be. They can't say it's always only been spelt ERY, and we're finding things where it's spelt the way I remember it with ARY. Do you get where I'm coming from, Karen?
Yeah.
They can't have it both ways.
No, well they do once.
I mean, what they're going to do? They're going to say like that loads and loads of people have misspelt something where it's never been spelt.
Look at that, Wales MA, Cemetery.
So it's never been spelt with an ARY. We're finding oodles of residue here where it's still spelt that way to this day.
Look at that, Arch Daily, Gallery of Cemetery.
Now, are we sort of like, have we got intersecting timelines here, folks, or what? Where we're seeing it the way it was
Evening
before.
Standard, look, Evening Cemetery Thugs,
Yeah.
Walk Free, they've spelt it wrong. That was 2012. But that's probably about the time it changed.
Now, do you know what I like about this, folks? We have actually now got, in real time, because they're going to see this like tomorrow, right, aren't they, Karen? Because we can't do it today for a certain reason.
Well,
but
Gary's going home today and all that, so...
I'm actually going, I'm going back to the hotel tonight, and, because I stayed...
tomorrow, I meant. So
tomorrow I'm going home, so I'll watch it when I get home. But the thing is now, what I really like about this, because I've got people...
Google.co.uk, ARY.
I've got people, even in our community, that say...
Metropolitan Museum of Art, Cemetery.
Yeah, right. And they turn around and say that the Mandela effect is a load of mumbo jumbo, and it's totally misproven. Well, I beg to differ. When we found loads of residue where it should be spelt, if it's only ever spelt, look, I'm only just going, folks, about what we've been told. We've been told when we done.
Look at that. That's a government one. That's ARY. That's
when
the City of Novi.
When we started doing this earlier, like we looked it up and it said there's always been a sort of like a problem where people have spelt cemetery wrong with an ARY, and it's never been spelt that way, and only ERY. Well, the proof of the pudding is someone has got to sort of like now say why we are finding loads of things spelt ARY like I remember
Stanford
it.
University,
Cemeteries. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that. They're all...
So my point is now, are we sort of like got in interjecting timelines here where we're watching it, we're doing this in the real time where now it's spelt ERY, and another timeline it's spelt ARY. let's face it, folks, most of the people we know,
Money saving expert forum,
Yeah.
ARY.
if you talk to them about this stuff, they just think it's nothing. They think, oh, it's what a load of mumbo jumbo. But think about what we said originally. We said it's never ever ever been spelt this way. In this reality,
If more people are writing it ARY
Yeah.
than ERY.
it's always in this reality. It's always been spelt ERY at the end. So we've got 3 E's, and now we're finding literally one after the other, haven't we, Karen?
Yeah, look.
We're literally, it's like we've gone into another
Look,
timeline.
Hove Council, Hove Cemetery.
Another timeline
Yeah.
where it's spelled ARY. It's spelled ARY. They're all spelled ARY.
Most of them are.
This is fantastic. This is so good. I hope sort of like Brian Stabley gets to see this, because like, you know, he's quite a specialist on the Mandela effect. This is like oodles of residue here, where now when I tried to do this before, do you remember, Karen? We tried to do this before and we couldn't find one that was spelled ARY.
That's what I said. We looked it up before.
We looked it up before. We couldn't find. We hardly find any ERY, do we? We hardly find any ERY.
ERYs. That one's an ER, but most
there's
of
some
them are
ERY.
AI. That's an E. But
So you're telling me that all these sort of
an A,
like companies, all these different companies, associations, have misspelt cemetery. It doesn't make sense.
ARY looks more better than ERY.
Well, that's what that's what I always said. So my point is, now, what is their argument going to be? What we've found here today, right? Did they say
Open Art? That's got Cemertary.
Are they going to say that all these different companies have spelt it wrong? Well, when you put Cemetery on your phone, it automatically spell checks. You try and do it, folks. You put in Cemetery the old way, right, with ARY, and it will spell check to ERY. But now we're finding absolutely oodles of residue, which, okay, you could turn around and say, if you're sort of like, really sort of like, how can I put it, on the fence, like, you can say, yes, gal, all these people are bad spellers.
Green Country Tourism, Cemetery.
So what you have to say in that scenario is that every one of these people are bad spellers. So say you got a company or an association that sort of like, say, I don't know, got 100 people. Every one of them persons that work in it, they don't think someone's going to turn around and say, here, we spelt cemetery wrong.
Even in here, look at that. In that, they've spelt it. This is in the documents, they've spelt the word wrong.
But cemetery, they spelt, like pet cemetery is spelt differently. It's spelt with an S. But our cemeteries are spelt, now there's an ERY there.
There's one, but the rest are all ARYs. Oh, that one's an ERY.
So
most of them are ARY.
Right.
ARY,
So now
ARY.
we have got something here like that basically is bona fide, bang to rights proof that sort of like the naysayers that turn around and say, no, cemetery has never been spelled ARY, never ever ever in this reality, is we have found it's spelled ARY. Now, what I want you to do tomorrow night, folks, when you watch this, while you're doing this, we want you to go in the chat room and see how you see it spelt, because the Mandela effect works in funny ways. It might have even changed for them that it's gone back to ERY, but we're actually seeing it.
What does this mean? Look, the first burial in the cemetery was 1877. Cemetery gravestones. The Greenwood Cemetery records displayed on the website were compiled by. What does that mean then? That they use both the words?
They can't do that though, Karen. They can't have it both ways. They cannot say, they turn around and say, right, if you Google this, folks, it says cemetery has never been spelled ARY in this reality. But
we want to spell it like that.
Is there another reality where it's spelled ARY and it's bleeding through into this reality, because we're seeing oodles and oodles of like residue bleeding through?
I think there's another one, Cemetery, but we're going to just leave it on there because
okay.
There are more ARY cemetery than ERY.
We're actually, listen, we don't know what you're going to see tomorrow until you sort of like tell Karen, because I won't be here, but we are seeing more
messages on the thing.
I do usually. I do sometimes. We see more, and it'd be interesting to see my phone what it comes up as. We're seeing more ARYs than ERYs. Now, my point with this is, if it's never ever been spelt that way, why are we seeing so much of it? it doesn't make sense. It's illogical. You know, like Mr. Spock says, like to Captain Kirk, like it's totally illogical,
I
Captain.
think they changed it probably in the 60s or 70s, but we didn't notice it because obviously
but they can't.
We were young, we didn't notice
no,
it.
But they turned around and said they'd never changed it. Now, I'll tell you what we'll do. We can find.
But we know that they're liars.
They're liars about everything. Yeah, but my point is, we can get a book now going back 200 years where it'll be probably spelled ERY. This is what I'm saying. It goes back to its origin point. It retroactively back all the way back in time to the origin point. Now the thing is, this is a biggie, folks, because we've got loads of residue here. But should we move on to something else, because we've spent a lot of time on Cemetery.
All of those were ARY. Look at them all.
But I can't wait to see, folks, what you see tomorrow night, and if it's changed back to ERY. But listen, me and Karen might be a lot of things. One thing's we're not is liars, and if we turn around and say we've seen it ARY, we've seen it ARY, please let Karen know tomorrow night if you see it ERY. So it's very interesting.
But this is they're all Gary. They're all nearly all of them are ARY.
So what you got to say is the only alternative explanation apart from a reality change or shifting timelines is all these people are bad spellers. They're all bad spellers. You've got hundreds of people that can't spell.
That's the graveyard one.
But what makes it more intriguing is the fact that when you
so how come if this word doesn't exist that it is
exactly. Now my point is, if it's never existed as ARY, why is it are we seeing so much of it spelt that way? And if they're putting it in their computer or their smartphone, why isn't it being spell checked back to ERY? Get my drift? It don't make an iota of sense. It's like we've got two timelines interlinking, and we're seeing.
Don't forget, they like to drive us crazy, so this is obviously part of it.
That's quite possible. I mean, but it does. But the thing is, you've got to say, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. If we've got one of these companies, we can't do it now because it's over Christmas light. I'll phone them up and I'm going to turn around and say to them, "How do you spell your company?" And they're all going to turn around and say ERY, because if they say ARY, I'll say it's never been spelt ARY in this reality. You can't call yourself. See, now that is
he doesn't want to. It's I put in Cemertary, but he wants to put in Cemetery.
Yeah. So my point is, if you phoned up these companies and say like, well, how do you spell Cemetery with your company? And they say ARY, so we don't spell Cemetery like that. So it's quite an enigma. I don't know what any of you folks think, but
often things change when we wake up, and then they've changed then, and
that's what I'm saying.
In your brain.
That's what I'm saying. Are we making this reality where we're making it ARY? We just don't know, because no one knows what's actually causing this. What we do know is the narrative they give us is that let's just use Cemetery and nothing else. It's always been, I know I seem to be going over the same point all the time, ERY and not ARY. So there you go, folks. I don't know what you think about this. It can't be spelt both ways. It's either one or t'other. If it's both, why is it both? Is it we've got diverging timelines or alternative realities?
I don't know what to make of that, except that I suppose when I thought about it at the beginning, I thought I would have spelled it ARY.
Now, if you remember, we did this a couple of years ago, and all we see is ERY, because you turned around and said, I remember something along the lines, Karen, no, Gal, everything was ERY, everything.
And now it's ARY.
It's ARY, which isn't the way it's spelt in this reality. A lot of people in the Mandela Effect community are going to love this. We've switched timelines. I mean, maybe it's the three cats we got here, like, have put us into a different timeline because they're stressed out. We're looking for one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the cats has run away. We've got to look for
again.
I've got to look for one of the cats. Anyway, right. I think we've spent enough time on the Mandela Effect. You can understand the point we've made there, folks. No point in going over over this subject anymore, but you know, do your own I always say to people, do your own investigation. Right, so what should we talk about now?
Okay, next thing, hang on everybody, let me just put the pause button on. The last part of our hangout, Gary wants to talk about the film Leave the World Behind, and who's behind it?
Barack and Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama and Obama.
And Barack Obama, her husband, the ex-president.
Is that what his name is? Barack?
Yeah, Barack Obama.
I thought he was just called Obama.
No, but I think it's not first name.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
now this film... What have they done in this film, then?
Now, this film, Leave the World Behind, what it is about a cyber attack, right, on the whole of the infrastructure, on everything.
Isn't that
Not
amazing
just,
that they're behind that?
yeah, not just sort of like, because what you got to remember these days, folks.
They already did it to us. They've
Yeah,
already done
they've
it
done-
to us.
well,
They've already
if it-
cyber attacked us.
This is what you really call predictive programming to the letter. Basically, the whole computerization system of the world breaks down. Everything comes to a complete halt, and it's basically a pretty much a free for all. Planes are crashing out of the sky. I actually see it on my Telegram group. I haven't got Netflix. One of the people on my Telegram group where I live, like, put it on the Telegram group, and I watched it on my phone. Well, you know, I was meant to watch it again before I come down Karen's, but I've been too busy. But basically, you know, we rely so much these days on computerization for literally everything, and of course, if the plug gets switched off for everything, everything comes to a grinding halt.
I don't think it's really strange in
Aeroplanes.
this film that you call it this, and that Obama and
Yeah.
his wife are doing it.
Aeroplanes are falling out of the sky and crashing on the beach.
Don't you think that's crazy? It's
yeah.
them though.
Now, is this some kind of predictive programming for the near or distant future, whereby if this did happen, they want an opportunity to bring in martial law?
Well, I reckon that's what lockdown was about.
I actually think the lockdowns. We've got to be careful what we say about. We're not going to mention that. We don't want to get a strike or anything. But the thing is, you know, in the distant past, like, a few little things happened where we sort of like couldn't go out for various reasons. Let's just say that. Was this a precursor and a little sort of like trial for what's about to come? Where basically,
do you think the people will listen this time?
Now,
everybody says they are not.
Now, in this country, I don't know if you know, but it's a very small percentage of the police lot are firearm trained, right? It's a very small percentage. Because people don't openly have firearms.
We're not really into guns.
No,
like
but now in America, this is where it's different. Where you've probably got almost every family who got firearms of one sort or another. Hey, really? Yeah. Well, now my point is, right? Could it be that over there they could bring in martial law quite quick, and they have got like the infrastructure.
Take the government down, can't they? It's in their constitution. If
exactly.
they're not happy with no one ever has, but because it's just a joke when they put these people out for us. Trump and Biden.
Exactly, it's just all
Boris.
puppets. All puppets. We know that.
That's what I said to you this morning. How can you arrest Boris, humiliate him,
and then make him the envoy?
To court, fine him, and then send him as an envoy to Israel.
This is right. At the end of the day,
they're laughing at us.
They did the same thing with Tony Blair a few years ago. After the Gulf War, they made him some kind of special envoy for the Middle East.
Yeah.
It's like making Dracula, like the head of the blood bank in the Royal Free Hospital. It's ridiculous. But anyway, back to this film. Basically, it's like a free for all, and They've at the end of this, I think they're going to make sort of like
I think they just want us
a series,
confused.
A series about this.
Absolutely confused about everything.
Yeah, people. Look, you know, a lot of people in America have built their own bunkers.
What's this telling us? That we're going back to the natural way of life, then? That we're getting rid of computers and everything?
This is saying they're going to bring in martial law, and make our life a living hell. Because what you've got to remember, with martial law coming in, people can be. Actually adhere to what they're told first time. No.
A few years ago, wasn't that it?
No. Martial law is when if you're told on the street you go straight home, we could then do what we did in Hyde Park and start running amok. You can get shot. This is what martial law is. It's the next step up. Martial law means that anyone don't abide by the rules that are written down, you can actually be shot on sight. It's been predictive programming for years. If you watch films like Earthquake with Charlton Heston back in the 70s, they had martial law then, where sort of like there was like rogue sort of like army people going around just shooting people willy-nilly.
I think if the American guns went, because don't forget they've got a slightly different constitution. But if that law went, then they could bring in martial law really easy. But if they bring in martial law now, America might all get their guns out. Everybody might go mad.
Now, listen to this, right? Listen to this scenario, right? So many guns have been sold in the US. Is there enough infrastructure, like with police and army, to implement martial law for it to actually work.
Especially
This is
when
the
you
question.
realise they've got to be running us
Well,
on the screen.
they've got family.
Everybody's got black eyes, remember?
Listen,
so what are they running us with? Black-eyed people who don't exist.
When we was on the anti-convid the convid march, we met a bloke in the army, probably high ranking, and he said, I've got family as well. So are people people in the army shoot their own citizens?
And don't forget, we were quite placid and quiet, whereas most people don't want it.
But my point is, you imagine how much these days we rely on sort of like the infrastructure based around the computerisation of everything. Basically, if it all went down, everything would come to a grinding halt, and planes probably would fly out of the sky because...
Do you know why it won't happen, though? Because everything is a corporation, and they like their money. So they need us buying everything and using everything. So they can only... I mean, I don't even understand how it was 3 years last time, because we should have been bankrupt at the end of it. But we weren't.
But the thing is, right, Karen, what I'm saying is, in the past, we've had all these films like, they're obviously like predictive programming. It's a very strange that sort of like the ex-president of the United States suddenly becomes a producer. We know they're all actors anyway.
Oh yeah, all actors.
But my point is,
why would he be making this?
Is there a lot of truth in this film?
Well, he changed and said, I don't want to rule everybody and have my thumb on everybody. I just want to free everybody. Now,
I don't know if you know, folks, but I investigated this a long, long time ago, before I'd done a podcast like with anybody, right? Do you know, like some of the bunkers they got, not just in the States, around the world, cost trillions to make. Now,
well, I disagree them.
Were they?
They're all
yeah.
closed now. They just
what they
do is they say, oh, you need a hospital, build it. Oh, and 50 years later it's empty. Oh, 50 years later there's another hospital. Oh, that's it. They just keep building and everything's abandoned.
Now, there is slightly different with these bunkers, though, Karen.
Don't you think Obama would have been much better if he'd tried to clear up all these abandoned places and put money into that?
But let me interject. Some of these bunkers are fully fitted out. They're like cities. The one below Denver Airport is like a city down there. They've spent trillions on these bunkers. What for? Is it for an escape route for the elite, like when there's lawlessness on the street?
I don't think this is going to happen. They frighten us with this. We've had all those, zombie films.
But the thing is, I don't know why they would spend. Listen, you're talking about people like John Paul Getty, like, that used to have like a red phone box in his mansion down in blinking Surrey Mansion or whatever, down in Sussex or Surrey, because he was tight as a duck's bum. So the thing is that I can't see him spending all this money on all these bunkers if they weren't there for a reason. Is it their last stop? If for argument's sake, the tipping point of 51% of the population suddenly woke up, Karen, they would have to go to the bunkers. There wouldn't be no hiding place for them, because at the end of the day, they could have all the police force in the world. There's not enough of them to sort of like prevent a takeover.
There's only a few of them.
Well, listen. When we went on Convin March, Convin, I'm not saying the word, so the algorithms can't build it up. They had to stand back. It was over a million strong. Numbers mean everything.
But then
in this
they change
world,
the law, don't they, when they see us out? I mean, how do you have concerts? That's a group of people being together. Yeah. So how come they can be together, but how come we can't go on a march? Yeah,
well, numbers mean everything. Now, the thing is this, has this programme got an element, this film got an element of truth to it? I believe it probably has. It was very like, how can I put it, futuristic, with regards to sort of like how reliant we all are on computerisation, just about everything. Doesn't matter if you're a water company.
We're our heads in our phones on the little black boxes.
Well, listen.
I just can't believe that Obama's got into this when really he didn't save the world
at all. My question.
All he was there was to make money.
My question is, would they be able to implement the same thing over here if it works in the States? Because
they're slowly doing it with our national health. Starting to privatise it like America.
You know these zombie movies, like, is it like...
Do you know what I think? I think him and her need to be arrested.
Like they all do, don't they?
Yeah, they all need to be hung.
But the thing is, like...
it's treason what they've done.
What would be without sort of like any law, or as much as some people find that the law and even armies distasteful, because we know it's all scripted. It'd be a lawless society. I mean, I'm old enough to remember.
We don't even really need a government anymore. We need someone maybe to make some rules, okay, But then the councils deal with everything. The
I'm-
MPs don't deal with it now. The councils do.
I'm
so
old
we
enough-
don't really need MPs.
I'm old enough to remember like the riots in the early 80s where basically not a large group of people, a relatively small group of people, literally in Toxteth, St Paul's in Bristol, Brixton, lots of places, Tottenham, where they literally run amok. And it makes you think that really how fragile society is.
Well,
And
I think society. I think we're quite sound. We might be a bunch of narcissists, but we're not violent.
no, we're not violent. But my point
I
is,
think we're quite level-headed, sort of.
Yeah.
Do you see all rioting? And
we're all
fighting the time?
listen. Most people are law-abiding citizens, right? What would happen? What would happen? What would happen if everything just suddenly closed down because you didn't have access to it?
Look at this! Leave the world. Audience rating is on 1. Look, there's most. Look, it's up there.
Really?
There, look. That is the audience rating. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 has got the most. So they didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
What a disgrace to the movie industry. 0 stars is what this deserves. Julia Roberts was the only believable character in the movie. That being said, horrible movie, I would say. The Obamas should stick to politics. But unfortunately, I can't say either, regardless that it carries on. But there you go. They're not impressed.
Anyway, my point is, right...
When are they going to realise we don't want them?
My point is this movie like some form of predictive is there a message in this movie like for some predictive programming?
Leave the world behind.
And how would it work in real terms, even in America, when you think almost everyone? Because I'm sure a lot of American.
But they did a film like this with what's his name? Who did Streets of San Francisco? Michael Douglas.
And Carl Malden.
Do you remember he just suddenly went mad, and he had a gun, and he was showing parts of America where America wasn't your welcome. And it just showed the other side of America.
I mean, the thing is, like, it'd be quite frightening in America because everyone's got firearms. How would they be able to sort of like control it? It would be a free for all, wouldn't it? Listen, I'm sure this will never happen. It's sort of like overemphasising something that may happen because what you got to remember is if there was a cyber attack.
All the movies, like with you've got Arnie going to Mars, and then you knew that the baddies. You knew when you saw the television, they were on the television. And all this fits into the world that we have today. These films. You won't believe one of the what's one of the big families? One of them produced the Truman's Family. I made a video, put it in a video. What's a big family? He's got lots and lots of money. I can't.
Loads of them got lots of money.
I can't think which family it is, but he made the Truman Family show film, and you think, why is he producing that?
But anyway, my point is, if even factions of this is right, you imagine how quickly like it could become a lawless society. When basically you imagine like millions of people don't receive their sort of like their universal credit, Karen, and things like that. All of a sudden the whole system goes down. How quickly things can deteriorate into a lawless society. I mean, hopefully it'll never happen.
Oh my God, they're executive producers. How can you be the president to an executive producer?
So anyway, folks, my point is, think about this very carefully, right? If only bits of this is correct, just bits of it, think about how much our reliance is now on the computerisation of everything. I'll give you a little example. My local doctors, not the one where I am now, but the one before. They used to have so much trouble with their computer system. They went back to their old filing system because it used to sort of like be quicker. How many times have you ever done anything like on a computer and at the end you've suddenly realised, you know something? It would have actually been quicker just phoning up. But 9 times out of 10 you can't do that. You can't do that anymore, and we've all been spoilt. But imagine a world without any of this stuff. Which we might have had, who knows, in Tartaria, like it might have been telepathic. But it just goes to show you how fragile and how interconnected everything is, and the reliance of everything else. I believe like everything is connected, like, and this is all connected, and everything's connected with regard to sort of like a massive big sort of like cyber system throughout the world, like a massive big sort of like grid, so to speak. A technocratic grid, and one part of that breaks down. It's almost like a house of cards. Like once one of them cards goes, the rest of it goes. We all know about fiat currency. The dollar isn't worth the paper it's written on anymore. So just think about, anyway, I think we'll stop now, Karen, because we've done about an hour or so, didn't we? Because we didn't want to sort of like bore you too much, like coming towards like New Year. Well, I can rattle on forever.
That's something else they're lying about. They're saying Obama was the first black president, but we know it's somewhere in the 1800s there was another one.
Yeah.
Before 1700s, there must have been another one.
So anyway,
it's crazy.
Anyway, folks, that's food for thought. If you can possibly watch this movie, do watch it and see what you think, and then analyse it and think really how fragile everything really is these days and how reliant. I mean, we all see kids walking around all the time with their mobile phones. I'm old enough to remember like when you didn't have even a bus timetable and you had to do it all in your head. Can we survive like if everything goes down? I mean, what you've got to remember, it won't just be like your computers, it would be your electricity, it would be your water systems, it would literally be pandemonium, wouldn't it? Because we wouldn't know how to live in any other way. Of course I'm hoping it never happens. Is it possible that it could happen? Yes.
Look at that, it's got 1.5 stars out of 5.
And you know the most strangest thing...
Look at that, 9,000 ratings. 3/4, well, me, all the people didn't like it. Do
you know the most strangest thing about this? It's relatively easy to implement. This is not like Flight of the Moon, which never even happened. This is quite easy to implement, folks. Believe it or not, it's relatively easy to implement into the world, which is a scary thought. And I think on that note, I think we'll finish. Okay.
Oh, look at this! Look, they voted 0. What a disgrace! 0.
Yeah.
0.
Anyway.
Just go through these messages. Look, 0. Julia Roberts. Nobody likes it. Horrible movie.
Anyway, folks, if you sort of like watch it, like and make up your own mind, you can watch
horrible movie.
But
movie.
Is it predictive programming?
Wow, look at that. 0 stars need to be an option. Nobody likes it.
Yeah.
Leave the world behind.
Karen, I hate to say we better finish.
We are going to finish.
Okay, because we've got to meet Robert.
Absolutely garbage.
Yeah.
That's what people think about the film. It's 0. Nobody likes it. 0 stars need to be an option. 0 stars need to be an option. 0 stars need to be an option. Look at that. Nobody likes it. 0 stars need to be an option. Just goes on and on. Look at that. Excellent. 0 stars need to be an option. Excellent. Nobody likes the film. There you go. So, nobody likes it.
Okie doke. Well, on that note, folks,
all right. The last bit. Gary wants to wish everybody.
I want to wish everyone a happy New Year, and I hope I haven't bored you with my subjects today. But we've done a condensed one.
Two of them are great. The Cemertary one, finding all those ARYs, and this saying that everybody would like a 0 option.
Okay.
To vote for a film they don't like.
I mean, usually I do a couple of hours, but we've got to meet my friend. We've left my friend down in Newbury, bless him, like, and he's been through a bit of a troubled year. So
he's happened the same thing has happened to him that's happened to me.
Basically, he lost his wife. So with that,
a few months ago.
Yeah, only a few months. So basically, folks, I wish you all a very happy New Year, and let's hope in 2024, like we keep on sort of like striving on.
Look. 2 hours, 21 minutes ago, someone must have put that message on, and they want a 0.
Okay. Anyway, folks, I wish you a very happy New Year, as does Karen, and I'm sure I'll be doing some podcasts in the new year about stuff. I've got to run to the loo.
He's got to run to the loo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's thank you very much to Gary there for helping us do that video. He always likes to do a podcast with me. I'm still very sad about Mickey. Christmas Day was not a very good day for me. But my family, my children were great. My son, especially my eldest son. Well, everybody was lovely. And my middle son is here from Australia. So I've met my little grandchild from Australia. So I'm so happy about that. But that is quite incredible on this film. 0. People want a 0 option because I think it's that bad. Great. That's what I say. And thanks very much to Gary, who's rushed off to the toilet. And... yeah, just very sad about Mickey. It's 10 weeks now. 10 weeks yesterday. Feels like ages ago. But anyway, not too much about that. I love Mickey and I always will. And he's always in